Good morning, good morning, good morning, good Saturday morning, and welcome to another Saturday morning conversation with me, Claudette Campbell, President and Chairperson of the Daughters of Sheba Foundation. As I've always said, well, for the past three Saturdays, I've said my mic is off, not mic, my camera is off because I look a mess this early in the morning. So let's just do it this way. You don't mind with the lights off. So today, let us talk about a very topical issue. One that I've noticed is taking serious life all over the place, especially in the United States at this time. It's a question of no fault divorce. The case of no fault divorce. That's our conversation this morning. This conversation is for people who are in marriages who might be considering a divorce, people who are single, who are thinking about getting married and want to make sure or have questions about, what if it doesn't go the way I hope it will go. Yes, I know you shouldn't be starting out married life with that in mind, but hey, one has to think. Anyway, so I'm going to be going to a few sources this morning and we'll be showing you a few clips and so forth as we dive into this topic of the case of no fault divorce. Again, my name is Claudette Campbell, and I am the president and chairperson of the Daughters of Sheba Foundation. The Daughters of Sheba Foundation is a Canadian registered nonprofit organization. We are focused, dedicated to women's issues. We are very focused on the women's movement across the world, not just here in Canada, not just in Jamaica, from where I come. I've been a Canadian citizen now for 20 odd years, but we are focused on women's issue across the world. So even in talking about this case of no fault divorce, although we'll be drawing heavily on the United States, where it is now a thing as they approach, a new election season or are in a new election season and the potential of the more conservative part of that country taking over. Once again, the case of no fault divorce is front and center, one of the many women's rights issue that is front and center. Hence, we're talking about it this morning on Saturday morning conversations with me, Claudette Campbell, president and chairperson of the Daughters of Sheba Foundation. So let us get into it. So, as I said, and I'm quoting from various authors, from various sources, and all of that. So right now, I want to talk about an article that Maria Zog wrote, and she started out by saying, "First comes love, then comes marriage. So goes the classic children's rhyme. But not everyone agrees. Increasingly, the idea that love is more important reason to marry, or at least stay married, is under attack." Republicans in the United States have been pushing back on the availability of no fault divorce, challenging the idea that not being in love is not being in, sorry, let's go again. They're challenging the idea that not being in love is a valid reason to end a marriage. So they think that because you're no longer in love, the marriage isn't working. That's not reason enough. Fix it, stay in it. Let's look briefly at the history of American divorce. As she wrote, for most of the US history, getting a divorce was very difficult. Did you know that in the land of the free, that getting a divorce is very difficult? Many states banned it entirely. You can go do your research. While others permitted it only under limited circumstances, typically cruelty, desertion, or adultery. And cruelty, you have to prove. Adultery, you definitely have to prove. Unhappily married couples who couldn't prove such faults, they call that faults, were effectively can't get divorced. Then in 1969, California became the first state to allow no fault divorce, meaning that a spouse could get a divorce simply by asking for it without having to prove that their partner had done something wrong first. Then, after California did that, other states started to follow suit. And by 1977, 47 states permitted no-fault divorce. And by 1985, all 50 states permitted some form of no-fault divorce. But now, over 50 years later, no-fault divorce is under increasing attack. This issue gained renewed national attention last year when Stephen Crowder, a conservative commentator who prides himself on his provocative views, expressed outrage and disbelief that his wife could divorce him without his consent. Let's have a look on this clip that give us an example of what happened in one situation about no-fault divorces, and then we will go into a little bit into the Crowder situation. So let's watch this clip. Let's go here. Let's watch this clip. Let me hit play.
Oklahoma senator wants to make it harder to get a divorce in Oklahoma through a proposed bill for the 2024 legislative session. News 4's Caitlin Ogle tells us why some hope this won't get very far.
The big part of this bill gets rid of the incompatibility reason for getting a divorce. Those opposed say not only could it put some people at risk, but it could clog up the court system.
Ridiculous, oppressive, terrible.
I thought it was one of the most embarrassing and appalling bits of legislation to trickle through a freshman legislator's pen.
Reaction from those opposed of Senate Bill 1958, written by freshman Senator Dusty Devers of Elgin, who took office in December. His website shows he's endorsed by conservative organizations and says, quote, "We must protect marriage and parental rights. I will fight to make sure our laws never interfere with the spiritual and economic thriving of families." Louisa McCune is a board member of the Kirkpatrick Policy Group.
I believe in marriage. I believe in religion. These two things should not coincide.
SB 1958 makes several changes to the statute, like removing incompatibility as grounds for divorce, which Edwards says it's how most divorces are filed. She says the burden of proof will land on the person filing while clogging up an already packed court system.
The dockets in the divorce court is going to be mired in hearings that need not occur because many people divorce by an agreed order.
She's also concerned about survivors of abuse, which may fall under extreme cruelty.
But it would be up to each individual judge
survivors
to
of
weigh
abuse.
by clear and convincing evidence.
Meanwhile, McCune says spouses in troubled marriages should be able to end things without assigning blame.
Divorce doesn't have to be contentious. It doesn't have to be about blame. It can be about the pursuit of one's own happiness.
News 4 wanted to hear from Senator Devers. Over the past 2 days, we've called.
So there you have it. One senator is saying that American men and women cannot get a divorce if a no-fault divorce. And I just have to love the system where one person can decide the fate for everybody. It's crazy. But anyway, there we have it. So, like I said, you're watching Saturday Morning Conversations. My name is Claudette Campbell. I am the president and chairperson of the Daughters of Sheba Foundation. This morning, we're talking about the case of no-fault divorce, not just in the United States, but across the world. But we're focusing on the United States. So, let's ask the question: what's marriage for anyway? Marriage is a legal status that confers important rights and benefits on the married people, and these rights and benefits have nothing to do with love. In fact, the purpose of these advantages is to give couples non-love reasons to marry. The idea is that the social benefits, the social benefits of marriage are so significant that incentivizing marriage or even flat out paying people to marry is justified. So, for example, and from this article that I'm getting this from, there was a kind of cost benefit analysis, and they considered the policy debate over whether children are better off being raised by two married parents. And in her book, author Melissa Kearney, book is entitled "The Two," and go get it. "The Two-Parent Privilege: How Americans Stopped Getting Married and Started Falling Back." This economics professor argued that the advantage of being married and rearing children is wide-ranging. She obviously is a pro-marriage advocate. She said that children do better when raised by both parents. But is marriage really the let's full disclosure here. I've been married and I've been divorced a couple of times, and it's not my thing, but for many people it is. So, but for many people, and some would argue all, the US history of marriage and marriages in most places, marriage is unabashedly transactional. Marriage is a bargain. Historians refer to marrying for legal and economic benefits as the marital bargain. However, in the late 19th century, acceptance of the transactional nature of the marital bargain began to wane, and publicly, men and women began to declare that love was the purpose of marriage. Historian Nancy Coate writes in her book Public Vows by the turn of the 20th century that the American culture had put love and money on opposite sides of the streets. So the whole issue of whether, how did it start? Is marriage about love or is marriage about money? Public views that love is the only reason to marry. But the law takes a more practical approach, recognizing that love alone may not be enough to get couples to the altar. That's why it continues to encourage marriage for instrumental reasons such as benefits ranging from tax breaks and immigration preferences to criminal law defense. So if you are married, you will get perks for being married. Let's listen to a little more on this about the transactional nature of marriage, and let's hear what someone has to this content creator has to say about why do marriages fail in this context of it being so transactional. Let me share that with you.
Is a business transaction. It's one legal entity, which is a business, which is you, versus another legal entity, which is your wife or your husband, coming together to create a new joint legal entity. This is why you need a marriage certificate. You got to go down to the courthouse, to the government, and get a marriage certificate because it's a business transaction. You and your wife or your spouse came together to create a new entity, and the government has to tax you. They bring all your credit together, they bring all your debt together, and they tax you. One, people don't even understand it's a business transaction. When we used to get married back in the days, it was a business transaction. This man will give his daughter to this man, and in exchange, he will give him 3 goats and some milk. It was a business transaction. At that point, it had nothing to do with love. So let's get that out the way. Now, let's talk about actually love. People get married thinking that their partner is supposed to fulfill all the love that they've been neglecting to give to themselves over these years. That's not what marriage is about. That's not even what being in a relationship is about. You as an own individual person supposed to find your own happiness. You're not supposed to get into a relationship, let alone a marriage, if you don't fully love yourself, if you don't fully know yourself, understand yourself, and value yourself. How can you expect somebody else to value you and treat you and love you the way you need to be treated when you don't even know your own worth, your own value, and how you're supposed to be treated? You don't even know it. You don't even take the time out to care to know it. You just know that you look good, or you got a fat ass, or you got a nice body, or you got a 6-pack. That's not what marriage is based upon, okay? So those are some reasons why marriage fails. And then another reason is communication. You don't know how to properly communicate or or verbally say what you want to say to
And
your
that
partner.
one is key.
You don't go into a marriage expecting your partner to just know everything about you and how to treat you. That's a recipe for disaster. Because if you never did that work, if you never researched yourself, if you never understood what pushes your buttons, and you never understood your pet peeves and how you needed to be loved or your love language, if you never took the time to find that out about yourself, how can your partner know and get it right all the time? It's not your partner's job to make sure that you're happy. It's not. It's your partner's job to be happy. It's your job to be happy, and y'all share your happiness with each other. Y'all in marriage is competing with each other.
Let's just pause there. And that's what a lot of people get wrong about marriage and even relationship, that somebody's supposed. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I used to do it when I was younger, but when people say, "Oh, this is my better half," or "This is my significant other," no, 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 no. You're supposed to be whole and complete. Then you meet up and get involved with somebody who is whole and complete. Nobody is your other half. You are whole. God didn't make you half. God made you a whole, a full, 100% male or female. Okay, let's get that straight.
Y'all competing about the bills. Y'all competing about the head of the household. Y'all competing about who could do what, when they could do what. Y'all making this a competition when y'all supposed to be complimenting each other. If you know how to make yourself happy, if you love yourself, if you study yourself, if you did your natal chart and understand who you are, there's no reason for your partner to try to figure that out. There's no reason for your partner to try to figure that out, because you already know it. You're not with him to figure that shit out. You with him because he compliments you. You with her because she compliments you. Y'all compliment each other. So we throw so much of our baggage on our partner and get mad when they don't meet our expectations. Just think about it. Think about how traumatizing that is. Think about how much pressure that is. We are constantly changing every day. You are not who you were yesterday. You are not who you were 2 weeks ago. You are constantly changing. You are constantly evolving. You're always developing new senses, new things about you. So you might have liked when he touched you one way, and you don't like that way no more. You know what I'm saying? So how can you expect your partner to know everything about you constantly 24/7 when you fail to communicate it properly, you fail to be verbal, and you fail to even know these things about yourself? This is why marriages fail. How can two people who fell in love with each other get married and then 6 months, 12
And marriages fail for that reason. But I think I've read a statistic somewhere, maybe when I was getting married, that a lot of reasons, the main reasons marriages fail, it's about money. Yes, money, 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 money is the main reason why marriages fail. Let me just stop here a while and ask you, please, if you're just joining us, you're watching Saturday Morning Conversations at the Daughters of Sheba Foundation. My name is Claudette Estherine Campbell, and I am the president and chairperson of this wonderful foundation. We are entering our 4th year in existence, and thank you to all of you who have recently hopped on and started being a part of the journey with us. You are watching one of our several productions, and this one is called Saturday Morning Conversations. Thank you for joining us. And we are talking about the case of no-fault divorce, but in order to talk about divorce, we have to talk about marriage. So this gentleman who we're just having a look at, he was sharing his thoughts as to why marriages fail. And he shared this. His name is the Sun God, and he shared that you have to love yourself before you get into marriage, and you have to learn how to communicate. And that is one of the major issues that people face in marriage, whether they're talking about money, whether they're talking about what to do tonight for dinner. People don't know how to communicate properly, so they end up in relationships that I remember somebody recently said to me that that they went on a date and the person was not a conversationalist at all. Anyway, so you ignore that, and you end up getting married, and you've been married for however long, be it a year, be it 10 years, be it 20 years, and you want a divorce. If you're living in the United States today, you might find yourself with a problem trying to get that divorce. I read an article on CNN's website, and they also asked the question whether should married couples be forced by law to stay together even if one of them want to leave. That's the position of a number of conservative activists, Republican commentators, and even elected politicians who, in the wake of the abortion rights being stripped from American women, they now want to strip divorce rights too from women, because women are the ones who are going to suffer the most. Better believe it. They're taking aim at no-fault divorce. And that's, as I've said earlier, but for those who are just joining us, no-fault divorce is the umbrella term for laws eventually passed in all 50 states across the United States that allow the married couples to legally split without proving that one party did wrong, such as committing adultery or being abusive. These laws have been around since the 60s, and it's one of the successes of the feminist movement. But feminism is under attack. Before these laws came about, they tell us, many women struggle to leave abusive or controlling relationships. In order to be granted a divorce and receive their fair share of the marital assets and have the right to remarry, which is important, they had to either convince their abuser to agree to divorce them or prove this abuse in court, where this can be humiliating and a difficult process. Strict divorce laws back in the days kept women trapped, especially given that men have historically made more or all of the money in heterosexual marriages. So you can see what, if we turn back the clock, as they did with abortion, if they turn back the clock, there we go. One more nail in the coffin for women's rights. So let's have a listen to what this TikToker had to say about what's happening in the States with no-fault divorce.
So it's a new day, and you know what that means. Republicans have found yet another thing that they want to do away with, and that is no-fault divorce. In the past 3 weeks, 5 states have introduced laws to outlaw no-fault divorce. For those of you who don't know, until relatively recently, the only way for a woman to push for divorce from their husband was if the man was at fault in some way. In many situations, the woman had to prove that he cheated on her or had an affair to get a divorce, or that he was physically abusive. Men, on the other hand, have always been able to have no-fault divorce and leave their wives. So states gave everybody the right to a no-fault divorce. But now Republicans are saying they don't like that. And they're saying that the only reason that a woman should be able to leave their husband is once again proving that he is at fault in some way, citing either abuse or an affair. So in conclusion, they want to go back to the days where women are forced to remain married to men that they don't want to be married to. I'm pretty sure there's a word for that.
So, yes, there definitely is a word for that, and we won't say that word, but that's the lay of the land. That's what's happening. It has been happening. It started some time back, a few years ago, but the conservatives in the United States are adamant that they want. Although they know, like J.D. Vance, you might have heard that name, on the campaign trail, he said that, yes, they know that there are violence in some marriages, but, counseling and all of that, which, if counseling by itself helped, you wouldn't have so many people who are damaged physically, mentally, spiritually damaged from being in abusive relationships. On the campaign trail back in the day, no Republican senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, said that one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace is the idea that, these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses, like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long run. Ha, 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 ha. He was being disingenuous. There's another, and we mentioned this other conservative commentator and no fault divorce opponent, Stephen Crowder. He complained that his wife that divorced him, he was so bitter about it. But then he was caught on camera saying that she needed discipline and learn to respect him, and suggest that if she was a worthy wife, she wouldn't be even thinking about doing what she wanted to do, which was to leave him. A little clip on that's, I have a little clip. Oops, sorry, hit over my microphone. I have a little clip there on that with Stephen Crowder, who was caught verbally abusing his wife, but nevertheless, he doesn't want other people to get divorces. He doesn't want women, period, to get a divorce. Let me play that
I
for
drew a
you.
boundary. I drew a boundary. No, you just
The volume is a little low.
You were not taking the car because
His wife is
if
pregnant.
You refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries.
There's no groceries. I do have to.
Steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's an unreasonable request, but I'll go do it. How about you first? Hillary, how do you respect the man? Yes, other than that, you see love like that. No, other than that, no, you're not taking the car.
Stephen,
You're not taking the car.
Stephen,
You are not.
then I
taking
will ask someone to pick me up. Would you like me to ask?
Oh, that's right.
Is that correct, Stephen?
Get an Uber.
Okay, Stephen, I can't.
Feeling some constraints?
Stephen.
Like I can't
Stephen.
go. Listen to me. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't go. I can't be home. You're gonna take the car and leave me here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. That doesn't work either.
Stephen,
Do you understand the difference between my life being set to the second and you going, I'll be back when I'm back?
Stephen.
And making it work. The only way out of this.
It's a bit low, sorry about that. But basically what is happening, it started out, let me just pause it.
Because you can't have any discipline.
It started out with he wanted, based on what I'm reading, he wanted her to do, she's pregnant, almost 7 or 8 months pregnant. He wanted her to touch some medication for the dog. And she said that, it's dangerous for me to handle such medications. And this is what ended up happening. She wanted to leave to go to the store, whatever, and he didn't want her to take the car. He's given her every reason why she can't take the car. And it's the power and control thing, and eventually she divorced him. And now he's a big advocate against no fault divorce because he has a personal beef. He has a personal experience, not talking anything about what he did to this woman, and how he treated her about in this situation. And I think I read that her family came out and said, this was like the straw that broke the camel's back. He has been abusing her verbally, at least, for some time. And this was like it. She had enough and filed for the divorce. And this is what has gotten the Republicans in the United States, well, part of the reason. Their backs up, and now they're going after no fault divorce. Thank you for joining us. You're watching Saturday Morning Conversations at the Daughters of Sheba Foundation, and this morning our topic is the case of no fault divorce. But okay, I've been focusing a bit on the United States. Let's have a look at what happens in other countries when it. Let's look. Few examples. Okay, this thing is I need to get this back to the top, and then I can share with you what happens in a few other places when it comes to no divorce. Whether you can get a divorce in other countries. Let's start with Australia. There we go. Listen to this.
It doesn't matter whose fault it is that caused a separation in Australia. We have a no-fault divorce system, which means that the court doesn't consider either party's fault in the divorce taking place. For example, if one party cheated, this is not a reason that the court considers for the divorce. The only reason the court considers is that the relationship has broken down irretrievably and there is no likelihood of the parties reconciling.
So that is what happens in Australia when it comes to no-fault divorces. And now I want us to turn to my own country here, Canada, and specifically even my province here, Alberta. Well, this clip is from Alberta. So let's have a look at this one and see what happens here in Alberta when it comes to divorce.
So this is a good question here. In Canada, the Divorce Act is federal legislation. It's not provincial, so that means that it's the same all the way across Canada. It doesn't matter which province you're in. Having said that, all divorces in Canada are no-fault divorces, meaning that even if you can prove family violence or infidelity, that has no bearing on how the courts are going to divide property or how they're going to address support issues. The only way it really ever comes into play, infidelity could come into play if, for example, one party racked up a bunch of debt related to an affair, and you could prove that that's where that debt came from, then it might not be considered matrimonial property or matrimonial debt to be divided between the parties. It would be that person's responsibility. In terms of family violence, the only way that really impacts on anything is it can have a role in parenting decisions, because if there was family violence that either occurred directly to the children or around the children, that might impact on the amount of parenting time that that party gets. But outside of it, it's just not relevant. Now, the reason we generally don't bother, you can technically make a claim to have a divorce either on 1 year of separation if there is family violence, like cruel and unusual behavior, essentially, or if there's infidelity. You can make a claim for divorce on that grounds, but it's really kind of pointless, both because, like I said, it doesn't impact on the law, but also because you'd have to prove those things in court. And by the time you got to a hearing to prove that, you're probably going to have been separated for a year anyway. So it just really doesn't make sense to go forward on one of those two grounds. Usually, if I do see anyone making a claim on one of these two grounds, it's in conjunction with also claiming it on the year of separation. And again, that's just because it has no real bearing. It is a no-fault divorce, no matter what you can prove.
So, as we've seen so far in Australia and in Canada, to this day, you can still get a no-fault divorce. Now, let us turn quickly to the UK and see what's the situation there when it comes to no-fault divorce.
I just want to start off by saying I'm sorry for the delay that it's taken for me to upload some further videos from the ones that I've done before, but I am back and I will be posting a couple a week, which I hope will help you. I also welcome, any questions that anybody may have that I can help and answer. I will do my best. The first thing that I'm going to talk about today is no-fault divorce that came in on the 6th of April, and I'm sure those that it applies to are very much aware of it. So like I said, this change was made on the 6th of April, and that was a big change to the UK law. From now on, we can only use the ground of no fault, and the aim of that is to ensure that, there's no further blame game between either party, and you can do this either together or separately.
Okay, so as you can see there, you can get, let me stop sharing this. You can get a divorce, no-fault divorce in the United Kingdom. But what about other places, in our world? Can you get a divorce on whatever ground whatsoever, or is it that it's not legal to get a divorce? Let's have a look. Because you might be surprised that divorce is illegal in at least 2 places in the world. Let me show you that.
Did you know that divorce is still prohibited and considered illegal in 2 countries around the world? But firstly, the Netherlands stands out as the country with the most lenient divorce process. Securing a divorce there is notably uncomplicated. Couples can simply declare that their marriage has irretrievably broken down, resulting in a divorce granted by the court. But where in the world is divorce still illegal? First, we move to the Philippines, where divorce is still illegal. Despite recent legislative efforts to legalize divorce, many couples remain trapped in unhappy marriages. Annulment, though an option, is often prohibitively expensive and inaccessible to those with low incomes. Lastly, in Vatican City, divorce is not only challenging, but also illegal. Governed by its laws based on Catholic canon law, marriage is revered as a sacred union. With divorce not recognized, couples residing in Vatican City face limited options for ending unhappy marriages, significantly impacting their lives.
Sorry. As you can see, there are 2 places in our world where you absolutely cannot get a divorce. Other places you can get a divorce, but to get it, it's very hard, like countries across Africa, and it's hard to get a divorce. So yes, the Philippines Parliament, they went through the first step to approve, and the law was approved. The absolute divorce bill was approved. Now I think they're at the second step, where I think the Senate or whatever it is they have there has to take the final step to approve that. So let us. So as we're talking about this morning, and as I'm about to wrap this up, let us look at what the divorce rate is like across the world. This one is going to be a little shocking. Okay, hold on, my dear. I just want to show you. This one is very brief. I just want to show you one of the comments that I read when I was looking for stuff to share with you this morning, and when I found this statistics in terms of divorce rate, one of the comments under it was, why are people in some of these countries even getting married in the first place? Let me make this bigger so you can be as shocked as I am, and as these people were when you look at these divorce rates. In Portugal, the divorce rate is 94%. Why are they even bothering to get married? In Spain, 85%. In Cuba, which is in the Caribbean, 55%. After that, let's go down. In Australia, it's 43%. In the UK, the divorce rate is 41%. So in Canada, 47%. The divorce around the world is at a high. It's high. Only country that is below is at 10% and below is Tajikistan, Vietnam, and India at 1%. India is at 1%. So aside from, and one day I'll do a dive into why is it that in India the divorce rate is so low, but not so. I shouldn't put it that way. I should say why the divorce rate is low, not so low, as if it's a problem. No. Okay. So hold on. Why is this playing? So the question that I want to leave you with today is, why are so many women opting out of marriage? And this is something that we can talk about another Saturday morning. We can dig deeper into another Saturday morning. This morning, I just wanted to focus on the case of no-fault divorce, what's happening in the United States, why are they going after it? Honestly, to me, it's a human rights issue. It's a women's rights issue. Human rights and women's rights are intertwined. It is another way to control women. It's another way. It's even a business and economic issue, because as we talked about at the top, there are incentives for being married. Men get tax breaks. all kind of breaks when you are married. So, but why, even with all of that, why are people opting out of marriage? And I want to share with you this one perspective before we go. And I will leave you with that so you can share your thoughts in the comments, and we will discuss this more, the other aspects of this more. Let's hear what this lady has to say.
The single men out there who keep wondering why women are opting out of marriage and why so many women are content being single, my answer is going to surprise you. Believe it or not, it's the married men and women. That's what's keeping the women single. Every day on this app, we watch a little bit of rage baiting with a married woman showing how her husband weaponizes his incompetence. They've read the Facebook post where you wish your woman a happy anniversary, but you brag about how you put her through this and that, all the ups and downs, how you completely dogged her out, but through it all, she stuck by your side. And we also see the 40% of married men who are on the dating apps. We watch these married men cosplay as single men all the time. They don't like seeing that these men can't be faithful, and a wedding ring and some wedding vows doesn't change that man. So if you're out here and you're wondering why the single women are so happily opting to remain single, and you're like, what's the problem? What happened? Is it social media? Is it the dating apps? Is it Kevin Samuels? Is it feminism? They realize that some of these happily ever after stories look miserable behind closed doors.
Women are staying out of marriages because it looks miserable behind closed doors. Is that true? What are your thoughts? Share that with me in the comments as I head out this morning. I might go back for a little more coffee and a snooze. But that was our conversation this morning, the case of no-fault divorce. And we're closing it with a question to you all. And please take a minute to share this conversation, because I want to hear from as many people as possible on this. So please share, share, so we can have a decent conversation on this topic of the case of no-fault divorce. And the final question, why are women opting out of marriages? So thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day, rest of your day. And I'm going to a pool party today. We'll show you some pictures. And I want to hear from you as to why you think women are opting not to get married anymore. Is it because they can't get a divorce? Thanks for joining. Talk to you again next week, Saturday.